the original.
This is like the first time because we don't. Thank you. You can actually see like the side.
Oh, that was hot.
Crazy.
All right, so
Wait,
yes, I've actually got a recording device here as well. So we will save reading to for
posterity.
Posterity. This bodes well. This bodes well for my pronunciation at this stage in the evening.
Drink.
The arsonist.
Yeah,
that's
always the advice.
The arsonist?
Has all the shaped feet.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, the star has grown more dense, and the core group is here. So it proves to be a different experience, I'm sure.
As long as you don't supernova.
Oh, we shan't.
It'll take another 20 years.
Yeah.
This is a different kind of party.
No, it's 4.6 billion years away. Come on, what are you worried about?
Oh, our sun's not going to supernova.
No, the sun hasn't died.
Right, but it can't do. No, never mind.
Even in my
It's
school.
going to become a dialogue.
This is in the apocalypse.
Hey, Joel, hold on. Time out. Fix
Imagine
this.
dragons.
Come here.
Radioactive. Okay.
Really episode.
Should've got
I'm making illusions. Okay.
Is anybody paying attention?
I'm making illusions, okay? All right, so this is reading two on opening night, book launch Neon Shakespeare. Welcome back. Let's jump right in, get going. You're familiar with the format. I'm going to read one of Shakespeare's and then one of my own. So this is Shakespeare's sonnet 148. Oh me, what eyes hath love put in my head, which have no correspondence with true sight? Or if they have, where is my judgment fled, that censures falsely what they see aright? If that be fair whereon my false eyes dote, what means the world to say it is not so? If it be not, then love doth well denote love's eye is not so true as all men's know. How can it? Oh, how can love's eye be true, that is so vexed with watching and with tears? No marvel then, though I mistake my view, the sun itself sees not till heaven clears. O cunning love, with tears thou keep'st me blind, lest, well seeing, thy foul faults should find. And to go where there is wisdom on the wind, where solitude brings forth its ripest fruits, and no communions ever called a sin, and lips that burn with words are never mute. To walk where self-expression is the rule, and dance unshackled from your self-regret. To sing to victory your cosmic duels, and love the only universe you've met. Destroy the menacing panopticon, the phantom eyes that ogle you to death, the evil host whose ghosts make you their pawn, the mournful shoulds that measure every breath. Breathe in the only air you'll ever know, to overcome the world you undergo. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May we have another?
Yes, you may.
That was so good.
You may.
That was so good.
Oh, the fireworks.
Baby, you're a firework.
Katy Perry.
Not as good
Karaoke
as you
song?
are.
Yeah, a little bit more mundane. 119. What potions have I drunk of siren tears, distilled from limbics foul as hell within, applying fears to hopes and hopes to fears, still losing when I saw myself to win? What wretched errors hath my heart committed, whilst it had thought itself so blessed never? How have mine eyes out of their spheres been fitted in the distraction of this maddening fever? O benefit of ill, I now find true that better is by evil still made better, and ruined love, when it is built anew, grows fairer than at first, more strong, far greater. So I return rebuked to my content, and gain by ill thrice more than I have spent. And I love myself. I love this store of days, dissected into second-hand tick-tocks. I think in time carding till my next raise. My dreams are drunk on the punch of time clocks. My formula is a function of my wealth. My talents told on tabs and tally sheets. My cell's mitosis, Microsoft Excel. My time is money, dollars for heartbeats. The how of time is in its measurement. Mensura homo, product of my times, my mind pulses my work environment's pace, its rates and rhythms. But more so, I'm self-made, pervaded by proclivities to self-increase my productivity. Yeah. Thank you. 89. Say that thou didst forsake me for some fault, and I will comment upon that offense. Speak of my lameness, and I straight will halt, against thy reasons making no defense. Thou canst not, love, disgrace me half so ill, to set a form upon desired change, as all my self-disgrace. Knowing thy will, I will acquaintance strangle and look strange, be absent from thy walks, and in my tongue thy sweet beloved name no more shall dwell, lest I, too much profane, should do it wrong, and haply of our old acquaintance tell. For thee against myself I'll vow debate, for I must ne'er love him whom thou dost hate. And consolidate your insecurities. Condense them all into a single sign. Conscribe the sigil that's inuring these into the entity that you call mine. And if perchance you happen to recall the vast event that made our sorrow real, sob with the heart that brought us to this fall, and do not fear the way it makes you feel. Then turn about and look it in the eye, and make your sorrow do a double take. Your legs themselves have taunted you to fly, to live your life and love another's sake. Red dice roll out the fate of mice and men. Return to me, my love, my denizen.
And yeah.
Indeed. Ask the question at the end about enjambment, and we'll talk about that.
I know.
Okay.
It is a sacred dice reference.
It is a sacred dice reference. It's encoded.
It's a
Sacred Dice is a revolutionary salon based in Los Angeles.
It's Anthony and Vanessa Parker.
76. Why is my verse so barren of new pride, so far from variation or quick change? Why with the time do I not glance aside to newfound methods or to compounds strange? Why write I still, all one, ever the same, and keep invention in a noted weed, that every word doth almost tell my name, showing their birth and where they did proceed? Oh no, sweet love, I always read of you, and you and love are still my argument. So all my best is dressing old words new, spending again what is already spent. For as the sun is daily new and old, so is my love still telling what is told. And these duodactylic and risible lines perpetuate human identity. Biology rhythms content to define us transfigure our fragile humanity. Poetry traces can make human races revise what they thought was the truth. As our DNA alters, belief bases falter as language is put to new use. By our clowns in high places that scratch at their faces and try to deny what they are. Still, these poets and preachers, philosophy teachers, demand that we stand at their bar. But continuity pervades this game. The more we change, the more we stay the same.
Indeed.
I make good use.
There you go.
Thank you.
What number was that?
76. Like the gas station.
Ah.
Inspired by.
I'll do your mnemonics for you. Mnemonics. Mnemonics.
Yeah,
That's
what's
great.
with English and spelling?
Anemones?
It's not English. It's Greek.
Numerology.
What's with Greek and spelling?
Right? You know, Meneme.
Menene?
Meneme is the
Meneme.
ancient Greek
To remember.
Menene.
for
To
memory.
remember.
I don't know much about spelling.
Yeah, it's MN. Yeah, like why did the ancient Greeks think M and N were correct letters to go with each other?
In connection with
They were drunk.
Right.
Yeah.
They were always drunk on wine.
He
Yeah.
passes an underage drunk boy.
Yeah, where names like faggot, pedophile, and pederast come to the minds of classes.
You should recite that.
Maybe as an encore.
You need
If
I'm gonna ask for that.
if I get enough applause for an encore,
I'm just
I'll
gonna-
do that.
Yeah.
Get ready.
That's
Okay. All right. Okay. So more than halfway down here. 140. Be wise as thou art cruel. Do not press my tongue-tied patience with too much disdain, lest sorrow lend me words, and words express the manner of my pity-wanting pain. If I might teach thee wit, better it were, though not to love, yet love to tell me so. As testy sick men when their deaths be near, no news but health from their physicians know. For if I should despair, I should grow mad, and in my madness might speak ill of thee. Now this ill-resting world is grown so bad, mad slanderers by mad ears believed be. That I might not be so, nor thou be lied, bear thine eyes straight, though thy proud heart go wide. And I walk among symbols and figures and signs. I watch their fine, divine, amorphous forms, define what's mine, transform my mind, and style abnormal metaphors for me. I'm torn between God complexes and word complexes, neuroses, psychoses, distorted ego emanations, born to battle both sexes without taking sides, since every word I know refers to me. Yes, you heard me right. I just called myself Tupac, and Dasein, and Sappho, and ice cream, and fuck if you can tell the difference. I'm not insane, are you? Take all your words and supplement them with myth comes from life, and life comes from myth. Thank you. Think about interesting questions to ask. This is Sonnet 99.
Sappho.
That's
Sappho and Tupac and Dasein and ice cream, right?
What kind of?
This one's interesting because I'm just going to kind of break at this point because there's too many interesting things going on with Shakespeare, but like this one's interesting because Shakespeare breaks here. Like we think Shakespeare just wrote sonnets. Well, he breaks his lines differently, and this one is just a weird one that's included in the collection, is 99 on Shakespeare's side. It's not a sonnet, but it's cool. So 99. The forward violet thus did I chide. Sweet thief, whence didst thou steal thy sweet that smells, if not from my love's breath? The purple pride, which on thy soft cheek for complexion dwells, in my love's veins thou hast too grossly dyed. The lily I condemned for thy hand, and buds of marjoram has stolen thy hair. The roses fearfully on thorns did stand, one blushing shame, another white despair. A third, nor red nor white, had stolen of both, and to his robbery and annexed thy breath. But for his theft, in pride of all his growth, a vengeful canker eat him up to death. More flowers I noted, yet none could see, but sweet or color it hath stolen from thee. And colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Unripe, delightful innocence of love. From feeling blastoceles ahead, then feet. Chromatophores, below, so too above. I love what infants do inside your pants. In you, the child is mother of the dream. You hunt like crocodiles and flirt like ants. Your bright eyes leap with your night lemur teams. A fury flows through those night-knowing limbs whose taut discomforts give position change, whose sinews, strung by sunny organisms, reprise motifs for moontime's hearing range. I love you just because you are this child who brings to garden only from the wild. Thank you. This is kind of like literally not a sonnet just because he has like an intro line was laid out as a sonnet, but he has others that are like 8686. Okay, so 152.
Is that Chomsky?
Yeah,
It was Chomsky.
the original line was
Evolution.
yeah, the original line was an allusion to Chomsky, who read a whole article on that
What
particular
about
phrase.
E. Cummings?
E. Cummings is an allusion in that one too. By the way, when you purchase this book, it's full of it actually has endnotes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so you get all the allusions, and well,
So
not all.
you
of
lay
them.
it out.
Yeah, but a good amount of them. Actually, I was just conversing with John. There's too many of them to notate all of them. There was a Wordsworth reference in that particular one. Wordsworth. My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. So it was when I was young. So yeah, the child is father of the man.
Mm-hmm.
In you, the child is mother of the dream. I kind of changed it into. So that didn't make it into the footnotes, and I just realized that yesterday. I was like, oh man, that's cool. It's a Wordsworth reference, but oh well, didn't make it in. But most of them do. And certainly if there's anything sort of like maniacal and architectonic, like I rearranged all of Shakespeare's whatever words into a new poem, like that's always in there. But it also, like, this new edition includes an index of first lines. Future editions will have like reviews and such on the back. I've gotten a few. The guy from professor at Northwestern who runs bardfilm.com or org, a blog site on Shakespeare, he's giving me a review, and I'm soliciting a few others, including from David Melville, who does who's already told me he's going to give me a review, but who does a wonderful job of Shakespeare in the Park here in Los Angeles. Everyone should go this summer coming up. I know they're doing Macbeth this summer. I don't know what the other two plays are. They always do 3. So,
I were you, I would even have them sell your book for proceeds going to Neon Shakespeare at the ISC.
I'll donate.
Yeah.
Just to get out,
That's such a good idea.
just recoup just the cost of printing.
Yeah,
That would be rad.
I'll do that.
Word it out.
I'll get rid of my old copies that way. 'Cause I have too many old copies that don't have an index of first lines. Anyway, yes. Okay. Oh wow! Here we are at the very last scheduled reading for this section, and then we can.
I remember when you first recited that to me. I was in the car on 10.
Yeah.
Traffic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll do a little. If I get an encore, I'll do like 2 more and then one that this slam poem that Lauren wants me to do. Okay, it's totally fitting, and this is it then for this side. 141. In faith, I do not love thee with my eyes, for they in thee 1,000 errors note. But 'tis my heart that loves what they despise, who in despite of view is pleased to dote. Nor are mine ears with thy tongue's tune delighted, nor tender feeling to base touches prone, nor taste nor smell desire to be invited to any sensual feast with thee alone. But my 5 wits nor my 5 senses can dissuade one foolish heart from serving thee, who leaves unswayed the likeness of a man, thy proud heart's slave and vassal wretch to be. Only my plague thus far I count my gain, that she that makes me sin awards me pain. He was so kinky. And as wasps and orchids draw themselves along, with nothing left to lose save how guitars untempered through the tempest string their songs for embers that die faster than their stars. As advertisements perlocute their wares, and time and tide make heartbeats do their best, and blood and rust and death find unprepared the cards that are held closest to the vest. A soul within constraints is still a soul. The body is the will's sommelier. The spirit thrives through obstacles and goals. The power of the mind through work and play. Environments and DNA and lust create this universe of fear and trust. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any,
Yeah, J.L. Austin.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Should we do questions on Encore?
Yeah.
Alludes and guitar-y.
Yeah, there's some
How
Deleuze
can,
guitar.
how can you allude to guitar-y with the word guitar?
Because it's funny.
It's funny. I was laughing.
Yeah, I know.
I know, I heard that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think maybe I'm too much of a nerd, but I did bring also besides the display items you'll see on the front table for Neon Shakespeare, I brought like a mini library of books that inspired me when I was writing it, so you can sort of peruse those as well. They're not for sale. They're from my personal collection, but they're not for thievery.
What?
What? Either. But I'm a reasonable guy.
What?
1,000 plateaus.
Yeah. But yeah, so we should do
Wasp and
some
orchid.
some questions, and then I'll do like a little encore-ish type thing. One comment before the questions, though. What I wanted to someone made a comment earlier. I wanted to pick up on about enjambment, which is
Adjacent.
right. Which is sort of the breaking of in poetry. It's the breaking of either performance or meter at the end of the line. In other words, when you think about Shakespeare sonnets, you think da 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 da. Shall I compare thee to a slumber's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. And you scan it, and in 8th grade, whatever literature class, you scan it, and you're like do, and that is what it is. But and I think Mariel made the comment. Some of Shakespeare's stuff is better than others, and it's so true when it comes to the sonnets. You're like, oh my God, Sonnet 18, like, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? That's awesome. Or let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Or like, that time of year thou mayest in me behold. Like, all of these ones that a lot of people know, they're like, oh my God, that's so like earth-shattering great poetry. Well, not all of them are like that, actually. But, there are so many hidden gems that don't get a lot of press. And a lot of that has to do with the way that Shakespeare uses or breaks enjambment or Shakespeare's own experimentation with the form. That really makes it fascinating. And in my presentation of tonight's presentation with the readings, my philosophy of reading poetry is that what I want to communicate is the sound and the sense. It's not necessarily how the meter breaks. And so you might not have heard Shakespeare's sonnets read like I try to read them, which is like, oh wow, that actually makes a little bit more sense. But it's also because you're not catching the fact that it actually is a sonnet, because he's woven the sound and the sense, he's woven the meaning into the form, which is like, whoa, you just did that. And so like that's part of just sort of author insight. That's part of what I strove for in terms of trying to
ABBA.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So with the Shakespearean sonnet as opposed to the Petrarchan sonnet, A B C D C D E F G G, right? So there's a whole form that goes along with it. But the way you sort of weave like what am I trying to get across, and you get that across without it even sounding like a sonnet. I almost need to add. I'm adding this to the Encore right now. The only sonnet, there's a page in this book that's blank because I just refuse to try to write a sonnet against Shakespeare's 129. It's too good. It's literally too good. Like it is a master. It's like saying, oh yeah, I'll write something like Beethoven's Fifth. No big deal. I'll just do it. No, you can't.
So you just left one blank out. Just sheer respect.
I love that.
That's so brilliant.
Yeah. So I did want to make that comment about like the reading style, especially with Shakespeare. You might not have heard it like that, but that's sort of a little bit of what's behind it. So I'll open up for questions or comments now. Yeah.
What's your favorite Tupac song?
Tupac song? Changes.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And then
second.
second favorite Tupac song?
Does that mean obviously changes?
Mother.
No, I think California Love.
No.
No.
Too
Wow.
popular.
Thank you.
Discredited.
I mean, it's a good song. It's a
I
good
don't
song.
know.
What about that classic "I fucked your bitch"? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I really don't.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Vanilla.
No, I have, but I just haven't thought about that in a long time.
Rocky Road.
What is your favorite flavor? Soy ice cream.
Soy ice cream.
Soy ice
Los
cream?
Angeles conversation.
Exactly.
I'm not sure I can answer that
I
question.
have real ice cream.
We're very on topic.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I
why'd
don't
you
know.
pick Shakespeare?
Why?
Yeah.
It's partly in the preface, but I wanted to teach myself a form, I really actually don't remember precisely why I said this is the one I want to do this with. In fact, really what it started out as was just more or less an exercise. Like it didn't start out as this. It started out as, hey, I want to teach myself some form. Like I want to, like I write free verse. I want some, poetic discipline. I'm going to see what, Shakespeare does, and let me try to write a response. And then I wrote another one and another one. And, by the time you've got like 20, you're like, just fuck it. There's 154. I'm going to do it. It's years away, but I'm going to go do it. So that's basically how, it came. I've written a handful of other response poems. None of them has actually ever reached the sort of polish that I get toward the end of this. Like the 148 that I read.
What about Dylan Thomas?
I have,
What about them?
strangely enough, Mariel's a good poet, and she's better at villanelles than I am.
That's not strange.
No, I mean, no, it's not. It's not. I mean, strangely enough, that you should ask that question. That brings up the fact that Mariel.
Have you tried? Have you attempted to conform to a different form?
Yeah, I actually have tried.
Discipline yourself.
Yeah, I have tried to write a
You should be the
villanelle.
first in this series, really. You could just do this the rest of your life. Why wouldn't you?
Shit, it's hard.
Yeah, but I mean, at your pace. What pace pleases you? Why not?
Yeah, that's true. I
You
mean,
have to pick something as voluminous as
right,
Shakespeare's sonnets.
right. Well, this is
You can get a following.
yeah, and it's in a sense, it's about the following, right? But in another sense, it's also about the education. It's about what it takes to learn, to sit in the presence of a master, to walk into his or her workshop and to say, let me sit at your feet. Let me learn what you do. Let me try to do it like you do it. Like this is how, in many senses, like the way, or at least, in Europe, from 1500 to 1800, like, they would go do this.
Yeah.
Okay. And
You just made yourself his apprentice.
yeah, you're from the Vermeer school. That's so cool. Totally cool. But yeah, so in one sense, it's about like making a career out of selling works, right? But in another sense, doing something like Dylan Thomas has a really famous villanelle, but he doesn't have a whole book of 150 of them. So where do you go to learn a form? Whoever wrote, literally, I don't think I'll ever do 150 again. 154, but one never knows.
Muddy waters.
One muddies the waters to make them look deep.
Well, that's effective.
Mm-hmm.
One does. Especially in academia.
That's a Nietzsche quote.
One normally does that.
Yeah. I think Nietzsche's quote was actually, "They muddy the waters to make them look deep." But what a great insult, right? Nietzsche insults.
There's
Yeah.
Shakespearean insults taped up all around.
I don't understand those insults. They muddy the waters to make them look deep. Yeah, that's clever.
Like, you speak
Yeah.
unclearly because
you want to
don't
appear.
know
Because
what
you're
to
shallow.
say.
And then people vote for it. So,
Yeah.
so who's the fool here?
Yeah.
That is a very good response to Nietzsche.
There you go.
I'm changing my career path.
Lauren for the win. Philosopher, budding philosopher here.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Philosophy grad school is a good life choice.
You know what? I would not trade philosophy
Like
grad
half
school
an
for
hour.
the world,
Yeah.
but it has not directly kept me employed.
But that's not what life is about.
Right. So yeah, other sort of comments or questions before we do an encore, and then I go get high.
Yay! All this is awesome.
Encore!
Encore! Encore it is. Okay, so structure of the encore. I think I'll embarrass myself first,
You like that?
and then move from there. So the encore will consist of 4 sonnets and a slam poem. We're going to do beginnings and endings. So Shakespeare Sonnet 1, then his 129, to which I'm completely dumb. And then the last 2 sonnets, which Shakespeare actually pairs. They're thematically paired with Cupid. Shakespeare talks about Cupid in those 2, and so do I. And then the final part of the encore will be a poem entitled Inside Cupid's Psyche, which is a slam poem. Shakespeare originally published, I believe, the sonnets with a couple of longer poems as well. So, encore it is. Shakespeare's Sonnet 1.
Oh!
Yeah. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. But as the riper should by time decease, his tender air might bear his memory. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feedest thy lightest flame with self-substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies, thyself thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel. Thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring, within thine own bud buryest thy content, and, tender churl, makest waste in niggarding. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by the grave and thee. And your trembling petals, when bedecked with dews, unfold sweet incense, vital instance of your dear perennial root. Whose life lust woos you fertile to this bed, except my love? But you would not perpetuate your root. You wrap your raiment tight about the fire that burns within your bosom, making moot lush nature's boon with self-directed ire. Your tender buds intrude spring's waking morn alone, except that I am here to lure your heart. Your duties filled if heirs are born to us, or else death takes both you and your whole race. O rosebud, let your pasts and futures still bend to my will, and be not mute. Thank you. Shakespeare's 129. The expense of spirit in a waste of shame is lust in action. Until action, lust is perjured, murderous, bloody, full of blame, savage, extreme, rude, cruel, not to trust, enjoyed no sooner but despised straight, past reason hunted, and no sooner had past reason hated, as a swallowed bait on purpose laid to make the taker mad. Mad in pursuit and in possession so, had having and in quest to have extreme, a bliss in proof and proved a very woe, before a joy proposed, behind a dream. All this the world well knows, yet none knows well, to shun the heaven that leads men to this hell.
Oh, sure, sorry. Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And nothing.
Bring it in.
Yay,
Yeah.
Shakespeare. I think you should do it though.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's count.
That's the third edition.
Yeah. You
Right.
just dropped the piece of chainmail that looks like a hand.
The gauntlet?
No.
Okay.
Does it always have to be chainmail? I thought it was leather.
It could be.
Oh, it doesn't.
Depending on the wealth of the notebook.
Oh no.
Right.
Getting crazy there.
Right, no worries.
Oh, it's getting better.
Okay, here we go. And 153. Cupid laid by his brand and fell asleep. A maid of Dion's this advantage found, and his love-kindling fire did quickly steep in a cold valley fountain of that ground, which borrowed from this holy fire of love a dateless lively heat still to endure, and grew a seething bath, which yet men prove against strange maladies a sovereign cure. But at my mistress' eye, love's brand new fired, the boy for trial needs would touch my breast. I, sick withal, the help of bath desired, and thither hied the sad distempered guest, but found no cure. The bath for my help lies, where Cupid got new fire, my mistress' eyes.
Yay, Cupid.
And I, Cupid, pricked myself with my own brand, and yearned to ravish Psyche's purest frame. Mindless, I'd been aroused by my own hand. I came unseen by night to quench my flame. But Psyche, not content with dreamy lust, by candle brought to light my hidden truth. Then I awoke, enraged at her distrust, since sight of me was mine's forbidden fruit. O Psyche, too naive to view my form, your gaze was still your quest to have in mind a trophy image for your memory's store. To have is human, loving is divine. So now I rule your drives and wander free. You serve your idols and ideals of me. Thank you. 154. Last but not least. The little love god, lying once asleep, laid by his side his heart in flaming brand, whilst many nymphs that vowed chaste life to keep came tripping by. But in her maiden hand the fairest votary took up that fire which many legions of true hearts had warmed, and so the general of hot desire was sleeping by a virgin hand disarmed. This brand she quenched in a cool well by, which from love's fire took heat perpetual, growing a bath and healthful remedy for men diseased. But I, my mistress's thrall, came there for cure, and this by that I prove. Love's fire heats water, water cools not love. And I, aid said ideas as I die. I Dasein wade in is. I wane as id. I die as want. I wait and see. I warn and tease id deities worn as DNA. I resist a new satire. Ears widen. Fears side in water. Terrae winds and fire as dies irae strewn afar. Fantasy carriers web. Darwin is after a secret. Id fiats create new rears. Scarred entities fear war. Id fares erotic warranties as reference is a word's trait. War, frost, and fate, race and desires. If, afterwards, erections arise in orifices, afterward reassert, I, Dasein waters, refract Eros's fire. Reason retires, rewired as traffic. Renewed, I first react as fears or ire. I, Eros, rewrite difference as arrests. I essay, transfer we for I, and retrace id arcs. Terse answers fire our artifice. Sacred dice create. Warriors refine fate's ruses, since fate creates and mirrors us if we reread. From fairest creatures we desire increase. Thanks. Thank you.
That was the
That
sixth
is-
one.
That is an Easter egg.
Look at oh!
This is what it looks like on the page.
Excuse me.
And
It's an additive letter poem. So each line of the poem adds a letter from the last line. So I, id, aid, said, ideas, as I die.
and the last line is
And the last line is the first line of Shakespeare's first sonnet. So it creates,
circle.
it creates a
From
circle.
various creatures we desire.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's
Well
the one that
done.
took me 6 months to write. And it's chock full of weird allusions in Latin and German and crazy stuff like that.
Gorgeous, though.
Thank you. Yeah,
That's impressive.
thank you.
All
To sort of like ameliorate the crazy brain coitus that just happened.
Wait, can I get pregnant?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I don't know about
Um,
I think I need a cigarette. I don't know.
The final performance piece of the Encore actually is, plays off of the themes from those last two. It's Shakespeare wrote on Cupid. I wrote on Cupid and Psyche, and then in those last two, and then I actually wrote this during this, sort of the same phase as I was writing this. It's a slam poem entitled "Inside Cupid's Psyche." Liberty, statute of, statute love, and statutory rape of the intellect. Life, liberty, and property, where sex is just a word unheard in ancient Greek symposia, where Socrates made passes at underage drunk boys, where names like faggot, pedophile, and pederast come into the minds of classicists, supersaturated with masturbatory fantasies of Venus on a half shell. And who knows why the penis of the past fell into their hands erect like the statue of liberty, blue, green, lady, blue, because she can't figure out what liberation means from lust and gender wars and libidinal economies. Green by default envious, in the meantime greed takes over. Thou shalt covet thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt covet thy neighbor's ass. Covered with confusion like a blanket, blank stares when you ask her why she likes it in the ass. But she is sure, because she has heard that she only uses 10% of her ovaries, and that the Inuits have 19 words for vagina, outdone only by the French, to whom we owe so much for the kisses, and the ticklers, and the sexual revolution, because we now enjoy equality. Equal rights and rituals, regrets, equal unemployment, deployment, girls and boys bent over equally by the armies of the androgynous, who used to chant men are for pleasure and women are for making babies like a mantra, but their tantras are private now. Nights rewind their daytime pleasure piles, light cone piles, for a sexuality that's the laughingstock of fashion moguls 7 generations down the line. Feminism, quickies, nooners, condoms, and diaphragms once built our economy, pleasure-based ecology, obsolete monogamy, and who said survival was a drive? Probably some obscure, deranged, anti-postmodernist, raving about fraternity and sorority keggers that drown maternal instincts down the sinkhole toilet bowl of a paternal politics whose friendship lasts a lifetime of one-night stands at carnal carnivals, car seats too small to make out the handwriting on the wall, lacerated lobe noise lesions, girl and boyhood reasons, and ape-deployed legions of personalized ringtones, slingstones shot at the inner ear by the familiar cell phone static phrase, my place or yours, or I saw your sister yesterday, or didn't we meet at the Alpha Incest Omega party that time I was sucking your tits, ear, lobe, and neck, romancing the stone-cold stares of my sisterly admirers? And what I realized when I saw Freud fucking Foucault at the nudist colony is that even Oedipus needs an Aphrodite, like Cupid needs a Psyche, who never looks her urges in the face, so that he can perch with invincible arrow tips dipped in the unknown logic of the pheromone atop the Bastille of sexes to ensure that the war will not be won, and to keep humanity happy, procreating, and brain numb to the fact that humans make love. Humans make love. Blinding love, making us invisible, forgotten selves who treat sexuality like a stone circle of miraculous origin, like stones that fall from tongues, marvelous meteors formed from forgotten metaphors by minds, angels and demons and broken wet dream fronts in bed with the unseen foes of our own desires and drives. Increased heartbeats, boners, and breasts pound out the human marathon of mutual masturbation, coincidentally procreation, which comes as no surprise, where only beholders have eyes, and artificial hearts are beating nature's compromise. Sex is not overrated, it's underanalyzed. Thank you.
Where can we get that one? It's not in the book. But
No, I'll
fucking A.
send me an email.
Okay.
I'll send you a
Done.
copy. I'll send you a copy.
So crazy.
Jesus.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Let's get so high.
Thank you. I had to not even get that drunk so I could perform. And
Wow.
not slur too much.
Wow.
Mwah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys
My
for
God.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Thank you for writing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for living.